Dr. Navin Naidoo,
Yes.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, no,
Welcome.
it's great to be here, guys.
Yeah. For the listeners and the viewers, we're not related, no connections. We just got the same surname.
Yes.
Navin, doctor turned lawyer, turned diamond something, miner or dealer, turned cannabis practice owner. Dare I say South African turned Australian? I don't know what you regard yourself as.
No, I think I still got roots in South Africa, but
Yeah.
I am Australian.
Yeah.
I've got my my Australian citizenship, which is nice to have. But I still have got affiliation and a love for South Africa that will be.
How long have you
forever.
been living in Oz?
17 years now.
Sure. Okay, that's a
17 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. So I think I'll start from the start. So I'm from Laudium.
Right. Okay.
Laudium, the born in the years of apartheid.
Yeah.
So Laudium is the Indian township in Pretoria. Everybody was segregated, so all the Indians stayed in Laudium. There's a separate colored township, separate black townships, and then there were all of the white areas. So I went to school in Laudium.
Mm-hmm.
Jacaranda Primary School was the first, and then Laudium Secondary School.
Okay.
How did I choose medicine as a career?
Well, don't go that quick.
So
take us back. Who are your parents? What did they do?
So my dad was a teacher, right. And then he was an inspector of schools, and then he eventually ended up being a lecturer at the local teachers' college. Okay. And that's where he sort of ended up taking his, up until his retirement. My dad passed away a few years ago. He always taught me education.
Number one.
Rack up as many qualifications as you can. Education is the number one way to consolidate your way forward in the future. So I think it was with the backing of my dad that I've always had that as an objective, is to accrue as many skills and qualifications as I can. So my mom worked in a bank. My mom is very resourceful. She sold saris, and she made samosas and things, all to put myself and my brother through sort of school. We started with very humble beginnings. My brother passed away, unfortunately. This is just over 1994, the year that my final year of university, in a car accident.
Oh, sorry. But
my mom and my dad gave us a very nurturing sort of childhood. There was a lot of love. There was a lot of my mom is, don't mess with my mom in a slipper type of thing. So she kept us in line, but also gave us the freedom to do whatever we wanted to do, but within a protective environment.
So did they say you should become a doctor?
No. I think my mom always wanted that route. When I was 13, unfortunate childhood accident, I got stabbed in my left eye.
Okay.
So it looks, and syringe and a needle. Myself and another guy were messing around using it as a water pistol.
Oh, just friends playing around.
Just friends, and then we were wrestling with it, and unfortunately, I took the needle to the eye type of thing.
Gosh.
And it
lost your vision and everything.
It wasn't immediate, but I did. At the time, I didn't realize it was the needle that hit me. I thought it was a punch a smack in the face type of thing. So I kept quiet, and I didn't actually tell my mom.
Okay, yeah.
And
we understand that, because then you get in more trouble for getting, you'll get hurt for getting hurt.
Yeah. No, we also have a story. One of our cousins who were wrestling, and we toppled him over, and then he went to bed crying. Do you remember that with Sebastian? The next day he was still crying, and they took him to the ER back in Johannesburg. Ended up with a fracture. But we all kept quiet about it.
So we totally get the thing of you don't tell your parents because you get in more trouble for messing around. Okay, but go on.
So after about a day or two, no, I think it was actually a full 2 days or so, I then told my mom. She'd just come back from work, so I think it had happened over a weekend, and then my mom she'd come back from work, and that's when I told her. So she took me immediately to the local GP. this was already at the end of the workday, and the GP phoned and arranged for an ophthalmologist to see me urgently. So I was a kid, 13. That was in Pretoria. So she took me to the ophthalmologist. I think if I remember correctly, my grandmother was with, but my mum sort of almost like ambulance driver style through Pretoria to the place, and then. As part of the initial treatment, I needed 3 intraocular injections. So I was there. There was no theater or anything. So it was, Jesus, my mom holding my hand. It was not the most pleasant of experiences. However, at the end of it, there was just too much of damage. Lost the vision. And I think then going through matric and through the rest of it, coming up to the end of matric, making decisions about which way you're going to go, I applied for electrical engineering in Cape Town, and I applied for medicine as the first choice at Wits and engineering as a second and third choice. So I got accepted for engineering in Cape Town, and I got accepted for medicine at Wits. So I think I was still very much family orientated, and all of my mates were still in Pretoria. My brother, who was my biggest compadre and henchman, so I decided to stay in Pretoria, and I went and did
Doc,
medicine.
before you we navigate more towards the academic side of it, I just want to circle back to the injury.
Yeah.
Obviously for my purposes as well. But
please explain the context, your purpose.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, we spoke about it earlier. I had an amputation on my right hand. There was quite a big adaptation from my perspective in especially fine motor skills.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was like 38 years old when it happened. So 38 years old of taking for granted this is what is the norm, to suddenly overnight having to adapt to not even be able to button your shirt. How was that for you? Because 14 years of sight and then having all of a sudden have to automatically adapt to loss.
Yeah, it was a big change. I mean, immediately the loss of 3-dimensional vision, binocular vision, was immediate. Like things like table tennis, you know what I mean? Just being able to judge depth and distance perception, and that was immediately off. However, remarkably, I think everybody who loses an eye or a limb or whatever, you adjust. So I managed to get through medical school, and I mean, using microscopes was challenging. Dissections can be challenging. However, you can adapt. You can stabilize your hands on so even stitching now, or using a slit lamp. So using sort of removing foreign bodies from somebody's eye using a slit lamp and not having the binocular vision. I think there must be plenty of one-eyed doctors out there. But you stabilize, you use your hands on the patient's face. You obviously get consent and warn the patient that, look, this is a delicate procedure. I'm going to put my hand on your face and use that as a stabilizer so that if you move your head, my hand moves with you as well. So things like that. And even just freehand stitching and things like that. If you've lost your binocular vision, it becomes a lot more challenging.
When you applied to medical school, did you have to disclose that there was this?
I think yes, I did disclose it. The injury was obvious, and then as part of the admission procedure at Wits, the final hurdle was a face-to-face interview with one of the, I think it was Prof. Wadi that did my interview. So yeah, it wasn't considered to be an insurmountable impediment. And I think what's happened in Australia, there's a doctor who unfortunately became paraplegic, but went forward and is now an advocate for practitioners who may have some sort of physical disability.
Yeah.
So yes, that fine motor skills for fine surgical sort of techniques and that would be essential. But now I think that, the robots and things, you've got a human operator AI and robots are certainly making a big impact already in medicine
And
dentistry.
the kids in school in Laudium, how did they treat you?
Hey,
you were different, right?
You know what? I got a long nose and I got one eye.
Okay.
So I got the nickname "long-nosed, one-eyed bastard." Was the main.
Yeah, I had to ask because kids are brutal. Eh?
You know what?
Very original, though.
Yeah, I know. But it was the easiest one to hit me with. Yeah. So, you know what? You come from Laudium, you're going to get... I immediately, I knew this is going to be an issue. So you take the punches as they come.
Long nose, one-eyed bastard was your nickname. Okay. We might make that the title of this podcast episode. I don't know. We'll see. So, but you got through it. I mean...
Yeah.
It was all banter.
You know what? I think, and this is a message to everybody out there, words water off a duck's back. You know what I mean? The thing is
I don't know. Easier said than done. Eh? I mean,
yeah, I suppose in some bullying in medicine is a big thing. It's one of my pet subjects about to actually deal with, and to try and actually change people's attitudes and hopefully personalities even. Yeah. But
it's getting a lot of airtime actually recently on social media and things. You know, the culture of bullying and pressure by seniors on juniors, things like that.
It's a big deal because I mean there's a lot of people that actually kill themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The pressure within the medical fraternity, and that goes doctors, paramedics, nurses, dentists.
Yeah.
There seems to be a real big issue with bullying within the industry. The consequences are devastating to individual people, mental health issues, just general decline in their health and everything else. And the you guys are dentists. I'm an emergency medicine practitioner. In terms of suicide rates and in terms of all of the really bad things, divorce rates, substance abuse, sleep disturbances, all of those things unfortunately come with the territory. When you throw the bullying aspect in it, and then you've got people that are still junior and haven't yet even made their careers out, it's devastating. It's terrible. And I think every single practitioner should stand up to the bullies that are there and make it known that, you know what, this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And sometimes those nasty people in medicine need to be challenged. It's difficult for a junior doctor to do that because that may be career destroying.
Yes.
But anybody who's got any kind of seniority or any kind of a spine should stand up to the bullies and actually make their position known. And make it known that this is not okay.
Yeah, I see. You know, talking about it helps, and getting more publicized and people discussing it. I think that's a step in the right direction, right? But probably not enough yet. Huh?
Yeah, but one of the benefits of social media is actually exposing those kind of issues. And you're quite right. I think when people do speak about it, there's the nice thing is there's protected channels, doctor-only channels or medical-only or dentist-only channels where those kind of issues can be discussed.
Right.
And it's important for people to realize that this actually happens. You know what I mean? Administrative bullying, the smiling assassin from the HR department, where if the junior doctor was being embarrassed and made to cry on the floor, goes to HR about the head of the department, chief specialist that's raking in millions of dollars for the institution. Very often it's that junior doctor that's going to be pushed out. Anybody who makes complaints against senior doctors or administrators, I mean, I've experienced it in Australia, I've experienced it here. It's pervasive within the industry, and a lot of the times to actually try and challenge that, people end up having vexatious complaints made against them. You get internal administrative reportings.
Also, the whistleblowers are getting victimized.
The whistleblowers get hammered all over.
There doesn't seem to be a consequence for the offender.
Unfortunately not. So vexatious reporting. This is one of my hate subjects. Doctors and nurses that make vexatious reportings. I've had 2 vexatious reportings made against me, one by a doctor and one by a nurse. This is in Australia, to AHPRA.
We'll just pause there. AHPRA is the Australian equivalent of our Health Professions Council in
so
South Africa.
AHPRA is the Australian Health Practitioner Regulatory Authority,
right.
Akin to the Health Practitioners
Council of South
Africa.
Do you want to tell us about those vexatious complaints?
I think I'll give you just a brief sort of thing. It's very interesting. The first one that got me into trouble was I'd referred a patient. There was a patient with congestive cardiac failure and who had a myelodysplastic condition where he would just drop his hemoglobin from 120, 130 down to 80 or 70, over a weekend. So this bloke was getting transfusions on a regular basis every 2 to 3 weeks. If he developed any chest pain or any other sort of signs, they would transfuse him. He's still alive. This incident happened, 2012. I was busy working. I just started in GP practice in Australia, and then I got a call from the pathology lab saying to me there's a critical hemoglobin finding. So I think it was around about 84. I stand to be corrected. I intend writing up this story because it's a really interesting story to doctors and nurses with regards to vexatious reportings. So I got a phone call. I couldn't get hold of the patient. The next morning, I arranged to go and do a home visit because by the lab calling me, the responsibility had now shifted to me. I needed to act on the reporting. So I went to, I contacted the guy and basically said, so how are you doing? I managed to eke out of him that he was having a bit of exertional chest pain. So I went and seen him that morning to go and, just make sure that everything is okay. I examined him. He had a bit of pedal edema. So subtle signs of congestive cardiac failure, but he was having exertional dyspnea as well as chest pain. So I said to him, you need to go back into the emergency department. He was reluctant. He was getting jabbed and transfused every 2 to 3 weeks. He was not very keen on having it again. But I seen him, he was with his son, gave him the instructions, and then I went back to the surgery. So he did eventually go to the hospital. That would have been about, say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So while I was busy consulting, I got a phone call from the doctor at the hospital, an ex-colleague of mine. So I was under the impression that this is going to be a collegial discussion about a treatment plan. So I took the call in the treatment room where there wasn't any other patients, and I picked up the phone call, and the first thing that happened is she screamed at me over the phone, Navin, what do you want me to do with this patient? So I was very taken aback, and I basically said, well, I want you to do your job. You know what I mean? The guy needs to be transfused. So there was this big argument about the hemoglobin level and whether he met the criteria for transfusion and all of that. And then I said, it may not be PG rated, but I said, why are you busting my balls? The guy needs to be admitted. And the phone conversation sort of ended there. So she didn't admit him. She sent him home. So he phones me that says, spitting mad because they'd driven into town, gone there, sat in the waiting room, and they sent him home. So I asked him, do you still have chest pain? He said, yes. I said, well, go back. Which he wasn't very keen on. I spoke to the son as well, and I said, he needs to go back. It doesn't matter what they've said. If he's got chest pain, he needs to go back. So he went back the next day, got admitted, got transfused, all of that kind of stuff. A few months later, a similar thing happened again. He had to go. I was working at Bundaberg Hospital, so I've got a staff grade emergency department consultant's position, so a non-FACEM, so non fellow specialist position, but a staff grade consultant's position. So I was there. I got a phone call from the lab again to say there's a drop in the hemoglobin. I contacted the practice manager to say contact the patient, send them into the emergency department. So he went in again. It was the same doctor that'd seen him again. So I had no further interaction with that. But again, he got told by the department that they're not admitting him, they're sending him home. at that stage, I had an issue with the hospital. It was a bullying sort of issue, which is why I left that particular hospital. So the patient asked the doctor, "Is there a problem? Do I need to go down to another hospital to get admitted?" And that was what it got left at that. I can't remember exactly where they got admitted at that time, but the week following, I got an AHPRA reporting.
Okay, that's your regulator sends you a report.
No, not the regulator. So the regulator basically sent me a letter saying there's a doctor who's made a complaint against.
Oh, so you've got notified that there's a complaint.
There's a complaint
at
now,
your regulator.
Yes.
Okay.
So the basically
out of the blue.
Yeah. About this whole incident, the busting my balls was in the reporting.
Oh, so the use of that phrase was unprofessional.
But that was the first
allegedly,
part of it. Yeah. But the second component of it was the fact that the patient said to the doctor, "Do I need to go to another hospital because you've got a problem with my GP?" Was the second component of it.
Okay.
So the reporting for a practitioner is supposed to have 4 criteria to it. If your practice is so out of so dangerous that it presents a danger to the public, whether you're practicing under the influence of any sort of substances, whether there's a sexual sort of overstepping any sexual boundaries. And
are you listing these things?
There's 4 of them.
Are you listing these? This is Australian
those are the criteria within which a practitioner can report another practitioner.
Oh, so you guys have guidelines which guide how doctors may report other doctors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, those are the 3 of them are similar to our guidelines.
Yes, I would imagine they're all very similar.
Yeah, if someone's life is in danger.
No, well, let me just, because...
So there was...
In South Africa, we don't have guidelines on how to report another doctor.
Okay.
Our regulator doesn't give us those guidelines.
So what's happened recently is that Vexatious reporting...
And I mean, there's no guidance on one doctor reporting another doctor in South Africa. So Australia has that kind of detail.
There is a certain amount of set criteria that there's mandatory reporting.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah.
So under the mandatory reporting sort of criteria, there's these 4 criteria.
Okay.
The 3 spring to mind immediately, but I'll get back to you.
Ours simply says, if you're aware of somebody that's doing something unprofessional or unlawful or unethical, then you must.
Exactly. Those same kind of.
It's very general, but not like as specific as you're talking about.
So with this here, the imputation was that I put the patient in danger by suggesting to the patient that
there was beef.
That there was a beef and that the patient may need to go to somewhere else. I mean, that was all fabricated type of stuff.
Okay.
In any event, it was a hit. This was an organized hit. So I'd made a reporting on safety standards against this very department.
Okay.
This is where this particular doctor was working. And at that stage, that doctor was in a romantic relationship with the director of the department that was needing to respond to the allegations of safety that I made against him. So I made the Whistleblower Act. There's a Whistleblower Act that gives you protection. One of the things that I did, the allegations of safety that I'd made previous to that were some heavy duty allegations. The allegation was a discrepancy in safety statistics and death statistics that were getting sent to the central department. Okay. They were being sanitized.
Okay. So who represented you at this up?
I represented myself.
Why?
So because that's
like the worst thing to do, right?
I contacted my indemnity insurers. The indemnity insurers were basically there wasn't very much enthusiasm to get involved in anything. It was, let's see what AHPRA says.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I did. The good thing is I did my LLB and I went to the Pretoria Bar and I did my pupillage and I've been litigating since 2004.
So you were legally qualified in South Africa, so you had experience.
And I was litigating. So I'm still currently litigating. So from 2024, when I got admitted to the bar and I got my dual qualification. So I did my own response to that. And I mean, it was a comprehensive 200-page response, but it got kicked out on the first go. So when it comes to these reportings,
Wait, pause. What got kicked out? The complaint?
The complaint.
Why?
Got kicked out as I addressed every aspect of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, you won. Yeah, I mean, you defended yourself
got it kicked out. I got it kicked out immediately. Now, normally what happens is that it goes before an AHPRA committee and things. And if it doesn't get kicked out on the first go, it then goes through that whole channel where it takes years before it actually eventually gets settled.
That's similar to South Africa.
Yeah. So basically, I've defended people in front of the HPCSA before.
Okay.
The strategy is to try and actually kill the complaint at that first stage.
Yeah.
The problem, though, is that the indemnity insurers don't want to get involved in that.
This is in Australia.
This is everywhere.
Okay.
They don't want to get involved in the first stage because it involves costs.
That's interesting. Well, I must say, I work for an indemnity organization, and that's why I find your story interesting. Is because I know that organization gets involved from the beginning, right at the beginning.
So my experience with so I litigate against insurance companies. This was what I was doing before I left to Australia, and in the first decade of being in Australia. So in terms of when is a claim vested?
Okay.
So a lot of the times the indemnity insurers will say if there's a complaint, they don't want to employ a counsel and an attorney just yet. They want to see how it unfolds because it may get sort of kicked out on its own. But if it doesn't get kicked out on its own, then it becomes much more of a problem.
Okay.
If it then gets into that mechanism of either HPCSA or AHPRA, it becomes a lot more complicated, and that's where the expenses start racking up.
I get you. And
then if you lodge any kind of a claim with your indemnity insurer, and they have to incur any expense, the cost of your indemnity insurance is going to escalate.
Okay.
So what's happening with the medicinal cannabis industry in Australia at the moment? There's been an enormous amount of doctors that have been reported. The cost
to the regulator.
To the regulator. So a lot of the indemnity insurers have basically stepped back and said to a lot of these doctors, we're not providing indemnity.
Oh, that's scary.
Either because you did it via telehealth or you don't have a fellowship, but any number of reasons. So a lot of doctors have ended up in the position where they're needing to either defend themselves or pay somebody else to assist them putting their cases and things together. So that first one of the vexatious reporting, I'd lodged a public interest disclosure about the safety standards that I'd reported because I could see what was going to happen. I reported a public interest disclosure that's supposed to kick in the whistleblower protections. This case, once I got it kicked out of AHPRA, my biggest concern was the local health ED and hospital was trying to run me out of town because I was bringing up the safety issues and all of that kind of stuff. So if one reporting had been made while I'm acting as a GP, referring a patient into an emergency department, it made me very aware as to how precarious my situation was. So this is like exactly that bullying within the medical industry.
It sort of almost scares you into silence, sort of, or not really?
Well, I come from Laudium.
That's
I come from, you know what I mean? Bullying is one of the things that I would rather get a bloodied nose and stand up than bullying just irks me to no end type of thing. I've told my sons though, you stand up against bullies, but you don't ever go and fight a dinosaur. If there's you know what I mean? You stand up for yourself or whatever, but if you're going to get punched and killed in the ground, keep your mouth shut and walk away.
Yeah.
But
because this seems like institutionalized bullying.
Yes.
I mean, this is a whole different...
This is a whole different story. So I was working at the hospital when I made the allegations.
So you were part of the system, actually.
And then, I mean, the thing is that it became a situation where I had a target on my back. So I left the hospital and I went into GP practice thinking, okay, that will sort of insulate me to a certain degree. And then I got this first reporting to AHPRA made against me while I'm acting as a GP. It made me very acutely aware as to how precarious your position is if practitioners are making vexatious reportings. So I took the medical superintendent and the doctor that reported me. I took them both to court.
Doc, can I pause you here?
Yes.
So we'll probably circumvent back to the story, but I just want to get a brief background as to, I mean, you are representing yourself here, as you mentioned in this whole debacle.
Yes.
So, I mean, before you left to Australia, so you finished your medical degree and then you did a law degree subsequent to that.
I finished my medical degree. That was in 94. I did my internship in California in 95. That's at one of the Pretoria circuits. So I went from the Joburg English-speaking circuit to the Pretoria Afrikaans-speaking circuit. So it was like a bit of a baptism of fire type of thing. You know what I mean? X-ray reports, ultrasound reports, everything in Afrikaans. A nier. I never knew what a nier was, but a nier is a kidney. So after I did my internship, I then went to go and work in the UK for a couple of years. I met my beautiful wife. And then we got married in South Africa, but I came back and we set up a practice in Pretoria.
She was from the UK.
Yeah, she was a nurse, orthopedics and trauma nurse, theatre trained as well. But once we got married and we came back to South Africa, we set up a GP practice in Pretoria. So in the heart of Pretoria in 1998. And Sandra was a practice manager. I was a solo GP, and we built up a practice in Pretoria. Very shortly after that, I started doing an LLB degree. It became available to be done as distance education.
Okay, so that's a law degree.
Yeah.
Why? What happened?
So at that time, while I was doing GP practice, I realized I needed to be studying something additional. I needed either to get into a medical specialty or do something. A lot of the doctors at that time were doing an MBA, which I was not inclined to. But the law thing seemed interesting, and I started it to see what it was like. It was challenging. I mean, it's a whole different way that your brain has to be wired to study law. I mean, the long paragraphs that you have to break up and understand. It's a different form of understanding that you do for medicine or you know what I mean, anatomy, physiology. But it was interesting. And there were lots of, in reading all of the cases in it, I could reflect on life experiences where all of those principles actually, if I'd known them or understood them a lot better, I would have been able to have dealt with them a lot more effectively.
I mean, look, I got into law because I just knew I didn't want to be a dentist for the rest of my life. And I thought I wanted to be a patent lawyer because I liked gadgets and things like that. Where does this idea of LLB just come from out of the blue? I mean, actually, I wanted to pause you earlier because you said you applied for engineering and medicine. Did you just thumbs up there, or was there something that inspired you?
I was interested in everything.
Or was it just, I mean, so why you picked those two difficult things in the first place? Were you doing well in school and you wanted to a secure job or status?
I liked the engineering part, like the prospect of building robots and you know what I mean, and gadgets and stuff was intriguing.
And you said electrical engineering.
Yeah.
Was it light or heavy current? Which one?
It was going to be like electronics, like trying to build. I think maybe the idea of building
that's
a robot.
Interesting one for the engineer.
I don't know what you're talking about, light and heavy current, but anyway, go on. Yeah. So you like building things, and then you also thought maybe I can heal people. Was it just?
Yes.
Did you job shadow anybody? Did you?
No.
It was just a thing that people did. Apply for medicine in those days, if you're doing well. Because you know what? There's another joke, right?
I think maybe the loss of my eye.
Okay.
And seeing how all of that unfolded, and that probably had an integral part to play.
Yeah.
With that final decision to choose medicine, and then once I started medicine, I suppose you don't actually really do much.
Yeah.
In
how was
medicine.
Wits? How was studying at Wits? It was Wits, right?
Yeah. So the first 2 years.
Why didn't you apply to Tux?
That was still in the Apartheid years. So that was 1989. So I know there's a lot of people, but I didn't want to, I wanted to go to an English institution.
No, but I think it's important to explain why.
Yeah, so I think it was, I wanted to go to an English institution, and that probably was the biggest factor.
So
I didn't apply to Tux.
Was fully Afrikaans. You couldn't study in English at all at the time, or?
I think there's a few people that did.
Okay.
There's a few. There were a few people that I did my internship in California that I was with in primary school that
Oh, so they allowed people of color and
yes,
things like that
yeah.
at that stage.
I think Priya Soma, she's a prof.
Oh, yes. Soma Pillai, I think.
Yeah, she was, I was with her in primary school.
Okay.
And who else was from the Tucks?
Because, when I think of Tucks during apartheid times, I'm thinking it must be hectic. They don't allow non-whites.
Well, look, I grew up in Pretoria. So Pretoria was a difficult town to negotiate when you were a teenager or as a young adult.
Of color?
Yes.
And your Afrikaans is fluent. You can speak fluent Afrikaans.
So, well, now I can. Yeah. When I was in high school, I didn't like Afrikaans. You know what I mean? It was like the indoctrination of the oppressive sort of regime type of thing. However, once I even in university, I found that communicating with a lot of patients of color, Afrikaans was the go-to language. Yeah. And then even when I went to California, it was Afrikaans. You needed to do your ward round presentation in Afrikaans and all of that. So it was a big change. Once I got into GP practice in Pretoria, the majority of communication was in Afrikaans, and that's even with black patients from all over the country.
Okay.
And when I did the law degree, and then I went to the Pretoria Bar. Yeah. I then needed to learn how to litigate in Afrikaans. So you needed to stand in front of an Afrikaans litigator arguing in front of an Afrikaans judge. Mm-hmm. So it was again a baptism of fire type of thing.
The Pretoria Bar is where advocates practice.
Yes. Right? Yeah. So you got in terms of the law, you got two routes you can go. You can go the attorney's route and then the advocate's route. Yeah. So with the advocate's route, when I did it, there were various bar councils: the Pretoria Bar, the Johannesburg Bar, Cape Town Bar, and so on and so forth. And there's also an independent bar where you can actually join a bar, or you can actually you can practice independent of a bar and just independently.
And then you need work. You need to get work from attorneys as an advocate, right?
Yes.
They need to refer work to you. So how do you?
So that's where joining a bar is so important. When I started, I did the law degree in, I finished it in 2004
while practicing. As a GP?
Yeah, while practicing. I finished it in 2004. And then 2004...
How was that? How was it working and studying? And
it was challenging.
Yeah.
It was it was very challenging. And we started a new practice. So I was working 6 days a week.
And you had a family at that stage?
Yes. Yes. So I had... my stepson was 3. Mm-hmm. And then the first son that myself and Sandra had was in 1999. Reese, and then Dylan was born in 2001.
So 3 boys at that stage.
Yeah.
And you're practicing and you're studying in LLB. I mean, hats off to you. You know.
Thanks. Yeah. It was challenging, but I had good support from my wife.
When did you study and things?
I had to make it was at night type of thing. It was it was challenging. It wasn't easy, but it was doable. And again, I said to myself, even though I still do a lot of GP work, but I wanted to do something else as well.
So you qualified and then you just left GP practice?
I left GP practice for 6 months while I did the pupillage. That was in 2004 was the last time the pupillage was going to be 6 months.
Okay.
After that, it's become a year.
And you don't get paid during pupillage.
No.
So where does the money come from?
I had to give the bar an undertaking that I would leave practicing medicine.
Yeah, you've got to do
that. To join the bar.
You've got to do that.
But that's
even I had to do that when I was doing
However, there isn't actually a rule that prevents you. Basically, the rule is you can practice any other profession as long as it doesn't bring the bar into disrepute.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll have to double check because I think it's more about remuneration and being able to dedicate your
not
time.
During the pupillage.
Yeah,
I'm talking just generally. Once you finished your pupillage, during the pupillage, during the pupillage, yes,
you can't be working.
You're supposed to dedicate your entire time and effort to the practice, which is what I did. But then once I qualified and I got and basically I passed the bar exam and I got admitted as an advocate, there's nothing that stops you. And I was getting people bring sick children to me. You know what I mean? At my house, where you're forced to, you know what I mean? There's a duty of care on you that you have to act. So with that, I basically I went back into doing a little bit of GP work, but more emergency medicine work, and then I was doing litigation for the rest of the week. So it was,
And then, yeah, wow, it's fascinating because I mean, one degree is hard enough. You've got two, and then you just also decided to go to Australia, where I'm sure at that stage was quite heavily regulated with people coming in.
Don't go ahead. I mean, let's pause there. You're a doctor that's doctoring, and you're an advocate that's being I mean, really, this is happening. This is really happening. So
there's a few.
You're running two practices at the same time.
Yes, there's a few people that recently, and from sort of the time of COVID, I haven't been doing much litigation. There's one big case that I'm still finishing off in Pretoria. I drafted the particular claim for that case in 2006.
Yeah.
So we've eventually reached we're at the tail end of the case. So the costs battle is set down for February of next year.
So you're still registered as a practicing advocate?
So yes,
I can doctor with the HPCSA.
No. My HPCSA, I wasn't doing any medicine here.
Okay.
So I'm registered with AHPRA, but my HPCSA registration has lapsed.
Why didn't you just keep paying?
I wasn't doing any medical work. So I mean, what's the cost of HPCSA registration now?
I mean, for Australians, it's not bad. It's like $3,000 a year.
You know what? I carried on.
$1. It's fine. It's pocket change.
I've often thought about reinstituting it, which there's no impediments to me doing that. I think I have to pay a big lump sum or retrospectively or whatever. But it hasn't been necessary. So I've got my registration with Australia, and that's where I practice I practice all of my medicine there, and I practice law. In Australia, when I went over, I had to redo a law degree. So I did a Juris Doctor degree. So that's a sort of covering everything, postgraduate law degree. And then I also got my fellowship to the Australasian College of Legal Medicine. So the College of Legal Medicine is mainly forensic specialists, but people that specialize both in medicine and law. But there's quite a few practicing doctors / practicing barrister or solicitors as well. So it has developed into its own subspecialty.
That's fine. Yeah.
When are you starting?
No, don't intend to.
Yak is more of a client than counsel. But no, don't rush ahead, because tell us about what it was like being a doctor and advocate in South Africa, and what type of work were you doing? Who was briefing you?
So initially, I did a murder trial. So initially,
criminal law.
Yeah, criminal law. So basically, I was doing pretty much anything and everything.
Yeah.
I did one murder trial and one rape trial.
Sheesh.
So the murder trial, I managed to get an acquittal, which was really nice.
Okay, so defense for the obviously
defending somebody. The rape trial was so distressing. The perpetrator of so we all the advocates and legal people and the whole gallery, you know what I mean, victims and family members, everybody's sitting there together, and then the roll call happens where the judge calls out the case, find out whether the people are there, who's ready to start in it. The two victims, two children, like, I mean, they would have been, you know what I mean, not even teenagers, but they were in this courtroom and started, you know what I mean, it was just a emotionally horrible experience type of thing. And what unfolded on that day, it's just so easy for people to get off on a rape allegation. And it was and I was doing defense work, so I couldn't reconcile myself with certain sort of kind of work. So I decided the criminal work isn't for me.
Yeah.
If I can ask, you were in defense, so you were protecting the defendant who's been accused.
Yes.
Okay.
So the thing is that the rape case, it was a minor. It was a teenage boy, teenage girl. The medical evidence didn't support a rape. The J88, the actual medical documentation, basically confirmed that there wasn't a rape. So I was going to get my guy off. But he was a youngster from a rural community. He didn't pitch up to court. So he had a arrest warrant. And by default, he would have gotten charged and convicted. But if he had been there, I would have gotten him off on the basis of the evidence, not supporting the state's allegation of a rape, and the victim as well. The victim's version didn't support a rape either. It was the family that had gone and done the reporting. So even though I didn't successfully defend the guy, but I just found criminal law not to be.
Yeah, it was not for you. Yeah,
it wasn't for me. So then I did quite a bit of. I did a bit of banking stuff, but the mainstay of the work that I did was medical legal stuff. Anything where there was a medical aspect. So medical legal litigation is big.
And it's a no-brainer. I guess the attorneys think, okay, here's a doctor and he's an advocate. Let's brief him because he'll understand the law and the nuances of medicine, right?
Oh, well, yes.
But how do you get your name out there? How do people know that, hey, I'm a doctor that's now...
I think with the bar, the benefit of having the bar as a backup gives you that.
Okay.
You basically, when you're a member of the bar, you got the privilege of walking into anybody's door and literally going and asking about advice. It's actually advised that you go and introduce yourself to everybody. Tell them what you specialize in and all of that.
For the purposes of just me not being in law and our listeners, what is the bar?
The bar is the institution that governs the advocates. So you've got a law society.
It's government. It's like being a public.
It's like an administrative body. Yeah. So you can be a member of a bar. Like the Johannesburg Bar or the Pretoria Bar or the Grahamstown Bar or Cape Town, wherever there's a high court. Okay. There'll usually be a bar association. And then you've got the National Bar Association that governs all of the advocates. So they've got their own set of rules and you can be held accountable to the bar.
Are you part of the bar, Yash?
No, I'm an attorney. I wasn't.
But you a member of the Law Society?
Yeah, it's now called the Legal Practice Council. Yeah, I'm
Legal Practice.
As a non-practicing attorney.
So the bar specifically deals with the advocates fraternity.
Okay. So where does Australia factor in now? When do you decide, okay, I'm leaving all of this now?
So in 2004 is when I did the advocate stuff. 2005, having gone to the bar, wiped out a lot of the financial reserves that we had. So I went back to England.
Well, explain that. Because, money is not... People just think lawyers are coining it, right?
Well, I had to leave my practice for 6 months.
Yeah.
We had a young family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Life is expensive type of thing. So I needed to somehow supplement my income. So I went and did a couple of months of locums in 2005 and 2006.
Where?
In England. So I was still registered with the GMC and I'd done quite a bit of work there. So it was easy enough for me to actually get work. And then in 2005, when I came back and I was driving back from the airport back to home, the one thing that I realized.
So from Joburg to?
From the Joburg airport down to, we were living in a place called Erasmia at that time, just next to Laudium.
I know it, yeah.
And something was on the radio and I think there was a big billboard, but I decided mining law is where the money is.
Just on the trip?
Just coming back. Look, I'd gone to England because you know what I mean? Yeah. There was I needed to start earning.
Yeah, money's on your mind, yeah?
Yeah. And I got the advocate's qualifications. I was a member of the bar.
Yeah.
The next natural thing was to try and get into mining law because that's where the money is.
Okay.
So that's what I had in my mind. And then at the end of 2005, this opportunity to get into mining sort of happened. I was in a shadow board meeting at one of the other advocates' chambers. I was invited to this because of the medical and the legal qualifications. It was a project that needed that kind of input. And then somebody approached me after that meeting to say, listen, there's this project in the Northwest, 3 diamond mines that there was just chaos. There was issues with the DMR. The permits had been suspended. There was a huge bank overdraft. There was a land claim over the area. Just every kind of disaster that you could think of that would put an investor off. But I read the documents. I read the old geologicals. I went through the history. I did my due diligence to check whether there was the possibility of a valid land claim. All of those aspects. At the end of it, I was sitting as somebody, as a person from humble beginnings from Laudium, with the possibility of getting involved in this diamond project. So I jumped at it. There was a lot of administrative nightmares to actually get through, type of thing. But I said, well, you know what? This is an opportunity of a lifetime. I'm gonna jump in and get involved. Jesus.
Yeah. And
you got a brick wall that I can bang my head against.
Yeah.
It's been challenging.
Yeah.
So come 2005, going into 2006, I started doing a big police corruption trial.
Okay.
In Pretoria. So stolen cars getting put through the testing centers and basically cleared and all of that. So I was needing to, and I was acting for the state. The 4 perpetrators had been arrested and been charged. Some of them were cops, and they'd been charged, and then they'd been acquitted on a technicality. So then they sued the state for wrongful arrest. So I was acting for the state and defending on the wrongful arrest a portion of it.
Yeah, you're still following. Yeah.
So there were some bad people that I needed to put up on the stand and cross-examine.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? So I see what's happening now at the moment with assassinations of legal people and stuff. Yeah. So as this case was unfolding, it became apparent to me that that some of the people that were my witnesses and some of the people that I had to cross-examine, that these were nefarious, dangerous people. And then I got involved in this mining thing. And at that time with the mining thing, there were a lot of interested nefarious entities that wanted this mining project. So we got hit with a court application by a law firm based in Pretoria, the Boere Mafia.
Okay.
All of this is whoever is interested enough can actually go and track back in the archives and find these documents. But there was an application that was made against the 3 mines where I put a deal together where we acquired an equity stake. But there was an application made at the High Court to prevent the government giving us our permits. Okay. So that was the beginning of this.
This mafia that you mentioned, is that like a legit term, or is that?
It's a legit term in Pretoria.
Okay.
So I found out about this only afterwards when I went and spoke to my colleagues in it to say, look, this is the case that's come. I need to hire a senior counsel.
Okay, so they don't call themselves that.
Well,
I'm asking.
Well, a lot of my very highly qualified Afrikaans barrister colleagues said to me in no uncertain terms, you're going, this is your opponents, this is the Boere Mafia you're going on.
Okay. And not to mess with them? Or
it was basically know your opponents, but they litigated decently. Okay. We won. We beat them in court. We got a cost order, and that was the end of it.
So what does the win mean? What is
we basically got their application kicked out. It was this weird application. It was a third party making an application to prevent the Department of Minerals and Resources giving us our permits.
Okay.
I mean, what was the intended outcome? Did they want that contract?
They wanted that contract.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I wouldn't call them mafia, though. It sounds like a very legitimate way of going about it.
Well,
because they went through an application process.
Yes, I think when I do write up the story of Diamond Lakes is my pet project.
What is Diamond Lakes?
Diamond Lakes is a mine.
Okay. So do you own a mine? Are you a mine owner?
Well, I'm involved in a company that's got an equity stake, and I'm a director on the mines. It sounds a lot more glamorous than there's no money coming in at the moment.
Sounds very glamorous.
We've managed to secure the ownership, the new order mine rights, all of that.
Are you friends with Elon Musk's father and things like that?
No. I've got a personal aversion to Elon Musk.
Okay.
And what he stands by and all of that kind of stuff. I think the US aid demolishing by Musk is going to end up with many casualties, unfortunately. In any event, we'll move away from that. But yes, I'm a director of 3 diamond mines. 2 of them are functional, but not producing very much at the moment. It's come to a point where trying to manage this from abroad has been just overwhelming. So we're looking for big equity partners to come in and take over and run the operation.
Oh yes, you mentioned abroad. So are you in Australia now? Where do you live?
I live in Australia. Yeah. So I come back to South Africa infrequently.
Check on the mines.
Check on the mines. Check on my mum.
Okay.
Previously, so the first after this police corruption case, getting into the mining, life started becoming dangerous. So there were death threats and all of that kind of stuff. We were staying in Erasmia on a beautiful property out in the Magaliesberg Mountains, but it was like the Wild West in an area of 3,000 hectares and a population of 3,000 people. In the 6 months before we left, there were 6 murders. Our neighbors we had a home invasion, but you know what I mean, fully armed, just horrible. But it became apparent that we were the targets that night.
Is this just because of the nature of the business that you're in?
I
mean,
think,
you're mentioning mafia.
So at that stage, my practice was still running. I was litigating things. Things were nice. You know what I mean? Things were going well. The legal practice was building up really, really well, type of thing. And then this incident happened with the neighbors. And my wife had a pet boa constrictor.
Oh, that explains the snake in your profile picture on WhatsApp.
Yes.
I was ask you about.
So it started off as a baby boa.
Got a pet snake.
We did.
Yeah.
It was my wife's pet snake, Nabini. So the boa, it started off small, but started growing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, those snakes do.
Yeah. So I was quite happy for the snake to be in its tank in the bedroom until it was longer than you know what I mean, almost as long as my body, type of thing. But in that home invasion incident that happened with our neighbors, the first question these guys asked when they got into these people's house, where's the snake?
Wow.
That's scary.
Yeah.
So it was intended for you.
So I've always been paranoid about security. So our house, we had 9 dogs, a double electric fencing around the house, burglar bars on the inside and outside of the house, a separate sort of security, like a safe room type of thing where we would be, armed response, all of that kind of stuff. So we were touch wood, we were fortunate. We never got hit.
I mean, I was going to joke when you mentioned the snake and ask you if that's also a security measure, but
yes, it is. Yes, I think
just South African criminals, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that like a known thing that criminals in South Africa are afraid of snakes?
Well, I think the fact that these guys, the first question they ask is, where's the snake?
Not because an Australian viewer might be thinking they're trying to target and steal the snake.
Yeah,
but it's more because they're afraid of the snake.
Yeah, if somebody knows there's a snake there, they want to know where the snake is, so that, you know what I mean.
That's why I wanted to give that context. Yeah,
but that sort of gave us the realization that we were probably the targets. And then, even though we had all of the security and things, our kids were needing to come in and out for school when we were at work. It was probably, in my mind, it was only a matter of time before we did get it. And that night that the neighbors got hit was when we made the decision, look, and with this, the police corruption trial, all of that was still unfolding. The mining saga was starting to develop and all of that kind of stuff. So it was for the concern for the family and things that the decision was made. In the first 10 years, I made 50 trips back to South Africa.
Okay.
So when I left, I think I had about close to about 30 trials that I was doing.
Oh.
And I accepted a job at Gympie Hospital, basically with they accepted my terms. My terms were, if I needed to go for trials, I'll take it as unpaid leave, but these are obligations that I'm forced to.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How did Australia factor in?
Australia's been nice. It's been comfortable.
Yeah. No, but I mean, how'd you pick Australia?
We needed to go to a place where was English speaking, that I didn't have to shovel snow.
Yeah.
And that
So not Canada, yeah?
Yeah, and where I could get my registration and all of that. My wife is English, so, and I had full registration with the GMC and that, but I think we were looking at...
So you didn't have to write exams and conversion exams and things like that?
For Australia, I did.
Yeah. Oh,
I had to redo the law exams and the AMC, everything.
And, okay.
Yeah, so, but we chose Australia because the weather was going to be very similar to South Africa and all of that. So I think it was the weather, English speaking, the registration, and the lifestyle is very similar to here. So that's how Australia became the default destination, and Gympie became the final default destination because the hospital accepted my terms. So we decided we're going to go to the first place, and then we'll travel around and find where we're going to set down roots and
how did they treat
family.
You there as a foreigner, immigrant?
Australia can be challenging. Yeah, it's been, myself personally, it's been good. It's been a good integration. There's a lot of racism. Anybody who says there isn't racism in Australia is deluding themselves. The statistics speak for themselves. Australia's got the putrid reputation of having the highest pediatric suicide rate in the world. So you got kids under the age of 10 that hang themselves. And one of the big problems with this is this whole institutional problems. There's this whole racial situation that it's just terrible.
There's an undertone of loss of identity, I think, because
yes.
I mean, from a government perspective, I think they're very welcoming. Especially just recently, Australia acknowledged Palestine as being an independent state.
Look, Australia's
you can see the
great.
fallout in the social perspective.
Australia's great. You know what I mean? The vast majority of the population have got no issues with race. You know what I mean? I'm in the privileged position where, as a doctor, and you're seeing somebody, it changes the dynamic very much. But I think there's a lot of there is a lot of race issues within the medical fraternity, violence within health industry. You know what I mean? In emergency departments and GPs,
and lots of South Africans in Australia. Eh?
There's a lot of South Africans. Yes.
Somebody saw somewhere on Twitter or something, but people were joking that South Africa exports a lot of their races to Australia also. So
well, look, I think everywhere's got their problems. Yeah, you know what I mean. But
it's been good for you.
Yes, it has been. It's been good. It's been good for the family. I mean, my kids experience racism, even you know what I mean. Growing up in school and that, it was pervasive. However, I think growing up in South Africa, it taught me resilience, and basically, you know what I mean. And I think all South Africans have learned that as well, black and white. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what the adversities are. You get on and you get over the issues, and you do what you need to do.
From a geographical perspective, where's Gympie actually?
So Gympie is about an hour and a half to 2 hours north of Brisbane. So it's on the east coast of Australia.
Yeah.
It's sort of smack in the same latitude as Durban.
Okay.
So the climate in Gympie is like Durban.
It's very similar.
You know what I mean? It's
a coastal town.
It's about, say, 45 minutes inland.
Okay.
30 minutes as the crow flies, but by road it'll be about 45 minutes. It's rolling green hills, banana plants and mango trees and parrots. You know what I mean? Beautiful birds and parrots. So it's a beautiful area of the world. It can get very, very hot. I mean, Australia's heat is a different sort of it's a different type of heat to contend with. But then the southern part of Australia during winter gets freezing cold in the winter. You know what I mean? minus 10, minus 15 degrees in the southern part of Australia. In the summer they go up to 45, 46 degrees type of thing. So there's a big swing in terms of temperature. Drought is always a problem in Australia. Along the entire coast, there's usually really good rains. I mean, when it rains, it comes down like Jesus. you know what I mean, monsoonal or more type of rains.
And snakes and spiders and things. I'm afraid of Australia. Things, like everything wants to kill you in Australia. It sounds like.
Well, that's true. Well, South Africa, you know what I mean. Let's take it into perspective, type of thing. So, Australia, there's a lot of venomous snakes. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
I love snakes. We got a lot of snakes.
So
we got snakes in the backyard and that, and a lot
in
of
the backyard and stuff.
Yeah, but you. No. That live.
No,
they're there.
I can't do that. No. Yeah.
Well, my wife and I go and do some environmental work on this. It's called Gari. Used to be called Fraser Island before. It's the biggest sand island in the world. It's a magnificent place, but it's rich in Aboriginal culture and history. And you go in the bushes where you're looking for weeds in it. So, I mean, you're walking in grass in it up to here. And there's a lot of venomous snakes there. But you make a lot of noise and things, the snakes normally will move off.
Yeah.
So you know what's really interesting is one of my interests is snake bite management, acute snake bite management. And the Australian snakes, the venom is transported by the lymphatic system.
Okay.
So if you get bitten, and as long as you use the effective first aid, which is splinting with a compression bandage, the limb and then splint it, it buys you many hours of time to get to the emergency department. And it's really effective.
And you guys don't run out of antidote, eh? 'Cause that happened in South Africa.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I mean, there's a whole lot of geopolitical factors that determine the availability and the cost of antivenom. It's a disease of poor countries. You know what I mean? And the thing is that so Australia's death rate from venomous snakes is maybe 4 to 6 in a year. If you go to PNG, which has got a smaller population, but it's much more jungly in that, and there isn't such an effective education.
That's Papua New Guinea.
Yeah. There's about 60 to 80,000 deaths.
Sure.
I stand to be corrected about the statistics.
But a big rate.
But a lot more. And even in India, I think India has got like 80,000 deaths and 200,000 loss of limbs. Sub-Saharan Africa, similar kind of statistics. But Australia, with a big population and the majority, and such a large amount of venomous snakes, there's not that much of a death rate. So you won't get killed too easily, Jesh.
Yeah, I'll be fine. My parents are on a flight. Well, I think they just landed to Australia.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're going to visit family and things. That's why I was mentioning.
Where about?
I don't know where about, but I know they went to Sydney because the flight is from.
So look, most people that go to Australia go to the cities. They fly between the cities in it. I mean, it's a massive, massive continent, and there's a lot of wild bush in it. So I think in those areas where there's a lot of bush and things, it may be a little bit more dangerous. I think the most dangerous animal, perceived dangerous animal, are the saltwater crocodiles. Yeah. So they nastier than the Nile crocodiles. I mean, they're known to hunt humans, and they're protected species. They're heading further south. So
is it like Florida where you get the they've got alligators in their swimming pools?
So you get salties, and you get freshwaters. Yeah. But yes, in areas where what's really crazy in some areas, coastal areas where there's the big floods in it, you'll get sharks and crocodiles in the town.
I saw a video the other day of a shark circling a crocodile.
So that's all your AI stuff. Come on,
No,
it's real.
Legit.
So, and you know what? It's not only those. So you got the crocodiles, you got the sharks, you got stingrays, you got all sorts of other rays, and then you got the stingers, irukanji, and other jellyfish that, if they don't kill you, you'll remember them for the rest of your life in terms of the pain and.
So apart from avoiding venomous and deadly animals in Australia, what do you do there now? What are you doing? I read somewhere about a cannabis clinic or something.
So
like
that. My wife. So I've been working from the medical fraternity. I work as a conventional sort of GP in one setup, and then I work as an emergency medicine consultant in another setup. And about 4 years ago, I got involved in medicinal cannabis prescribing. It was basically I reached the end of the end of the line in terms of treatment options with a dementia patient, and I had she was on 2 antipsychotics and a benzodiazepine, a woman in the mid-80s that needed those just to keep her settled and prevent her from running off and injuring herself again. And then I had a very persistent MSL, medical science liaison, come and say, well, look, she'll do the administrative paperwork and all of that. And she did just that, did all of the administrative paperwork in that for the TGA, and it was for a CBD product.
It's a lot of acronyms you're throwing around here. TGA, CBD.
TGA is the Therapeutic Goods Association, so they control any unscheduled.
So like SAHPRA in South Africa, South African Health Products Regulatory Authority?
Yeah, probably.
So what's it? It's
TGA, Therapeutic Goods Association.
Okay.
So they regulate cannabis and everything about cannabis. So there's a joint sort of regulatory capacity.
Joint, and the pun not intended. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Go on.
So the TGA regulates most everything about how doctors can prescribe these unregistered products. Where was I heading with this story?
Yeah, how you got into it, because you said the...
Oh, yeah, right. So, and CBD, so within medicinal cannabis, you've got THC, which is the one that's got the psychoactive effect. You've got CBD, which doesn't have any psychoactive effect, but it's got a lot of therapeutic benefits on the body. There's over 150 cannabinoids. THC and CBD is literally just the tip of the iceberg. But with this particular product, it was a CBD full spectrum product. There was a minute amount of THC in it, but it had all of these other incredible chemicals, the terpenes and the flavonoids and everything in there. So I put this patient onto a small little dose of CBD, 10 milligrams, as a test dose type of thing. Which it is a very, very small dose, but she's in the 80s, she's on all of these other medications, so always start low and see where you're going. The effect was immediate. Within 12 hours, she didn't need her normal mid-morning antipsychotic. Within 12 hours. I mean, it was just, the response was incredible. Within the space of about a week or two, I'd managed to drop her pill load to about half of what it was, type of thing, and she was doing just so much better. So that was, and my wife knew this patient. My wife had seen her when she was on the double antipsychotic and the benzodiazepine preparation, where she was just knocked out and mainly unresponsive, drooling sort of from the side of the mouth, and to going onto the CBD, dropping the antipsychotics and the benzodiazepine, to becoming lucid and recognizing my wife again and having a bit of a conversation within the space of say a month and a half.
And was that, if I can ask, more symptomatic relief, or was that a cure? Did she have to
No, it's not
continuously
a cure. What it worked for the agitation. It worked for the main two components with that particular patient was the insomnia, the severe agitation secondary to the dementia. So this was in 2021. We started the clinic in December of 2021. In August of 2021 with this particular patient.
Wait, so you started the clinic. I was thinking that this patient inspired you to start a clinic.
So this was my GP patient.
Okay.
The clinic we set up separately because we had to get separate licensing.
Oh, so it's quite heavily regulated.
The owner of the clinic that I was working at was not pro-cannabis at all. Okay. So they weren't interested in getting involved in cannabis. So those were the set of secrets. I spoke to the practice manager and said, look, I'm going to start doing this. Yeah. I can't ignore this. Yeah. It
wasn't inspired by like, okay, this is going to make money. It was
no. It was so basically it was my wife and I saying we can't ignore this. You know what I mean? Okay, this is just profound, the difference that in that one patient, and that's what started it off.
So what is this now? What does this clinic do?
It's called Empowered Medical Monitoring. But what we did was we set up a face-to-face medicinal cannabis service that acts only within that space. We don't take patients as direct referrals only from their GP or from their specialist. So what we do is that we make sure that we maintain a relationship with the referring doctor. One of the big one of the big issues with the telehealth services or with the medicinal sort of cannabis prescriber is who's responsible for the rest of their patient's health.
Okay.
So the way that we've set up our clinic is basically we maintain a relationship with the various GPs, and they continue the regular care of the patient.
Yeah, so you're not just a glorified weed dealer. I mean,
No,
is
no.
this
My grandmother will be she was cremated, but she's wherever our ancestors go to, she's probably not very happy with. However,
no, but I was going to ask: is this a controversial thing in Australia, or is it?
Did you know
mainstream?
Queen Victoria in the 1850s used medicinal cannabis?
Okay, no, I'm just asking.
No, wait. Yeah. There's an incredible history to this. So her physician was a bloke by the name of O'Shaughnessy, an Irish doctor who went and worked in India.
Right.
And that's where he got exposed to hashish being used as a therapeutic for therapeutic purposes, and he took that back to Europe. This is in the 1850s. He was the physician for Queen Victoria as well as the Queen of Belgium at the time, and as well as a lot of other royals. So medicinal cannabis has been used extensively in the Western world up until the 1930s. The colonial world. The colonial ships that went and took over the world, from the Dutch, the Portuguese, the British, all of them. Those big colonial ships used hemp for their sails and their ropes. So there were big cannabis plantations all across Europe during the colonial years. Stuff I never knew about. Mm-hmm. What seems to have been the main reason for the illegality kicking in, up until the sort of late 1800s, the British had set in place draft legislation to control narcotics, so mainly the opium trade, but they included cannabis within that draft legislation. It never got taken anywhere else, but after the First World War, so after 1918, they started growing hemp in the States as part of the war reparation effort for paper and for textiles. And it grew so cheaply and so prolifically, it became a major economic challenge for the richest people in the States. The people that own the cotton industry, the textile industry, the timber industry. And then at sort of the beginning of the 20th century, so 1900s, the petroleum industry started. So they started making synthetic textiles from the petroleum industry. So the illegality thing in America started around the early 1930s. There was a bloke by the name of Ainslinger that was in charge of the FBI. At that stage, there was a lot of anti-war protesters in America protesting America's nefarious dealings in Central and South America. There were lots of non-white immigrant groups from South America, the Mexicans, Nicaraguans, everybody, and the Negro populations, Indians, Chinese, everywhere. But a lot of, including the white population, a lot of people use cannabis. They've been using cannabis historically for thousands of years. It became a really convenient way to control population groups and to appease the richest people in the States. And so the legislation by the states to criminalize cannabis was effected in the early 1930s. The Americans were funding the United Nations, so that was incorporated into United Nations policy globally. And that's how the illegality seems to have been pushed. Up until then, what's really interesting, Empowered Medical Monitoring, our clinic in Gympie, is on the high street in Gympie. It's a brick building that was a pharmacy in the 1930s or pre-1930s. So you could actually buy cannabis legally from the building that we're in historically. So it's I never knew much about this, but I mean, since I've gotten into cannabis prescribing, I've studied it. I've done as much as I can in terms of the learning process. It's been a fascinating and interesting story. We probably should do another podcast on that at another time, specifically with that.
Does it carry any stigma or like controversy?
Yes.
In Australia?
So the medical field is very polarized. You know what I mean? A lot of the colleges put out statements on their college websites to say there's no evidence that cannabis works. That's a load of rubbish. Any doctor who makes that kind of statement is ill-informed and is risking being called ill-informed, I suppose. There's one of the problems, doctors, people are going to be using cannabis even if it's not prescribed to them. within the element of doctors prescribing cannabis, there's a lot of people that are self-medicating. So within this whole medicinal cannabis sort of spectrum, harm reduction prescribing is one aspect, where people that are sort of victims of cannabis misuse disorder, trying to actually regulate how they use it, how to use it sensibly and all of that, and to manage symptoms is one of the strategies that is used within medicinal cannabis prescribing. But the medical field is completely polarized.
So are you not at risk of getting more AHPRA complaints?
Yes. So
how do you navigate that? Or?
So this is one of the things is that from day one has been looking at all of these really treacherous positions that a doctor can find himself in. It's one of the it's one of the sort of the educational evenings that we do. That's what I deal with. Is basically how do you actually prescribe responsibly for the sake of your patient's health and safety, but also for the sake of your licensing and your credibility and all of that. So that's what we did with the empowered medical monitoring. We built this model specifically with me wanting to protect myself from the, from reportings. Yeah. In terms of medicinal cannabis, there's certain contraindications. Anybody with a previous history of psychosis, it's considered to be a contraindication. So there's a lot of reasons why somebody can have a previous history of psychosis. It could have been sepsis-induced. It could have been methamphetamine-induced. There's a whole lot of different reasons. But that's looked at as a complete exclusionary criteria by the psychiatric fraternity.
I mean, if patients just come there and say, "I just want to smoke a blunt," so for recreationally,
that's one of the reasons why we insist that a person gets referred by their GP. In terms of legally prescribing cannabis, there needs to be certain specific criteria that you can't use it as a first-line treatment. The criteria is relatively soft. The person needs to have been they need to have a chronic medical problem. They need to have been tried on other conventional treatments that have either failed or the side effects have been intolerable. And then in those cases, that opens up the doorway to actually to start prescribing to them. But you get another group of people that are already using cannabis.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
How do you then regulate the other, pre-existing users from just abusing the system and, having these prerequisites for
So we don't entertain any of that. One of the ways, the ways that we set up our clinic is by insisting that the patient needs to have their GP refer them. So the first part of their journey into getting prescribed cannabis is them going and making their disclosures to their GP. And the GP's understanding is they're referring that patient to us. It places a responsibility on me to communicate with the GP what the treatment plan is going to be, our details. If there's any sort of issues, we've got a direct channel.
And it's a doctor-patient relationship that gets...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of the things, in terms of our consent document, we insist that the patient maintains their regular follow-up with their GP. In certain circumstances where GPs have left and
No, but I'm asking, is the clinic, you also have a doctor-patient relationship with the patient?
Yeah. It's an established... Okay. So if they didn't have a GP and I was accepting them off the street, like you say, the bloke who comes in saying, you know what, I'm a recreational smoker and that, it first of all, it puts you at a higher risk. But saying that, the whole harm reduction prescribing is something that is obvious, is sustainable, and is already being used in people that are heroin addicts. People that go onto the methadone program or the buprenorphine. There's a few other sort of opiate substitutes to basically get people off and that's referred to as harm reduction prescribing. Now, what the psychiatric fraternity and a lot of the anti-cannabis fraternity seems to think, they seem to have this impression that cannabis prescribers are grabbing people off the street and shoving cannabis down their throats or
well, glorified drug dealers. And here I'm just playing,
Yeah, I know you're playing devil's advocate. I know you're the attorney being lastig at the moment.
Yeah.
I hear that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are self-medicating because either they can't sleep, they've got sort of social anxieties or whatever, and they're medicating themselves with cannabis and functioning. You get a situation that's called cannabis misuse disorder. Okay, so you basically have got it must be recognized by anybody who's a prescriber. So within cannabis misuse disorder, you're going to get those patients. I get a lot of patients that are using a lot of cannabis. So what my duty as a prescriber is to actually try and regulate those people, bring them into a regulated prescribing arena where you, first of all, combustion, smoking, and bongs are extremely damaging to the lungs. And any type of combustion burning actually destroys the majority of all of these nuanced chemicals, the minor cannabinoids, the terpenes, the flavonoids. None of them survive the 600-degree burn.
So what's the recommended way to consume?
Is with something called dry flower vaporizing. So dry flower vaporizer is basically a vaporizer that it's got a chamber where the cannabis flower is crushed and goes into, and that heats up to a maximum of 220 degrees. So basically, it actually activates all of the essential oils, because that's what, you know what I mean, what these things are in. It's essentially an oil sort of matrix. And that's how it gets inhaled and gets the maximum bioavailability in a person. So if somebody smokes cannabis, they destroy all of... I'll give you this. So you've got the main three components in cannabis. You've got your cannabinoids. THC and CBD are the two main cannabinoids. But there's over 150 minor cannabinoids. There's cannabinoids now that exist that never existed historically. They've actually been created by selective breeding of the plant and these fancy growing techniques in it. The quality of medicinal cannabis is judged very much by the amount of terpenes that are in there, not just based on the cannabinoids. It's this whole concoction of all of these other compounds. So you've got your 150 cannabinoids. Your next big group of compounds that you get are called terpenes. Terpenes are the chemical sort of constituent in the plant that gives it physical properties, color, taste, texture, but very much the aroma. The aroma from cannabis comes from the terpenes. There's over 300 different terpenes. And what we know now is the terpenes interact with all of these various cannabinoid receptors and other receptors in the body and demonstrate clinical benefits, even without any THC or cannabinoids. So you've got your 150 cannabinoids, 300 terpenes, and then the next big group of chemicals you get in cannabis are called flavonoids. Flavonoids have got this really profound anti-cancer effects. So there's a lot of research that's going on them. So within any particular strain of cannabis, you'll have some cannabinoids, some terpenes, and some flavonoids. When people smoke cannabis, and if it's the conventional way that people normally smoke cannabis, which is either in a joint, a bong, a pipe, a carrot, a watermelon, I've heard some incredible stories from patients of mine. But that 600-degree burn destroys all of the terpenes, all of the flavonoids at the interface.
Okay, so the extraction process is what is of utmost imperative.
Yes. So there's different ways that people consume cannabis. So the first way, which is the inhalation route, and even the scientists have acknowledged the inhalation, even with conventional smoking methods, in terms of getting the highest levels, the highest serum levels, the speed and the highest levels in the blood are from the inhalation route. From a medical cannabis perspective, we want people to use vaporized cannabis versus combustion cannabis. The next route that you can use is oral ingestion. So gummies and oils and capsules and wafers and all of those kind of stuff. With the oral ingestion from the stomach, everything gets absorbed. Everything gets absorbed. However, the first pass effect, it goes through the liver and gets broken down. So you lose about 30% of the initial dosage through the first pass effect. Yeah? But prescribing medicinal cannabis, combining the two forms of the most common forms of ingestion, which is inhalation route plus the oral route, is where you get the maximum benefits. And that's what I've seen in terms of my clinical practice. With empowered medical monitoring, we've seen over 1,000 patients. We've got probably about a 60% retention rate. So we've got nice, long case studies with people that have one of the ways that we gauge our the benefit of it is a reduction in opiate medication being one of them, the reduction in sleeping tablet medication. One of the best applications that I've found for medicinal cannabis has been insomnia, chronic pain, insomnia, generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD. And one of the really peculiar applications in patients that use methamphetamine, keeping people away from methamphetamine and actually getting over methamphetamine addictions and the acute withdrawal, medicinal cannabis oils is in 30 years of clinical practice as a doctor, 17 years in Australia where I've seen a lot of methamphetamine sort of use in it. The most effective treatment that I've seen with actual patients of mine that are still patients of mine has been a combination of inhaled cannabis. Most of these guys smoke cannabis in any event, but putting them into a regulated sort of regime where you switch them to. So what's really interesting, the dry flower vaporizers gives a cannabis consumer more of those active ingredients than the conventional smoking. But a lot of people are very don't want to change, but we say to them, look, you don't have to change immediately. However, that education part in terms of explaining to them why they're burning, then the majority of their product is actually ending up going into smoke. When you say that to people and you actually, this is where Sandra comes in. So in terms of our consultations, Sandra's my wife, but she's the practice manager and troubleshooter and everything else. But I spend at least half an hour with the patient going through, where I go through all of the administrative checks, checking the registries and that, making sure that what they on, what scheduled substances they're being prescribed and all of that kind of stuff. So there's that duty of care on me to make sure I've got that all in my initial consultation.
I'm going to get a free consult from you afterwards because I've got insomnia and it's the worst results Wits has ever seen.
Well, the South African industry is actually is now starting. So I think the next phase of the South African medicinal cannabis industry is a better regulated system of doctors prescribing, and that's the best way to do it. You know what I mean? The thing is that I think Australia and Canada and even Germany, all of these progressive destinations have looked at the evidence that's there and have come to the conclusion that this is not the heinous sort of demon weed that it's been made out to be.
Have you tried your own product?
No, I don't have a product. I prescribe.
Okay, so it's basically, I mean, it's sort of like basically a prescription. So you are getting the product from a third party supplier.
No. So the way that we do it is our clinic. We've got everything to demonstrate to patient what the product's in it, but we don't have any active sort of products. So the pharmacies keep basically it's a system. We give the prescriptions, they go to a pharmacy, and it's a pharmacy that deals with the whole dispensing and all of that kind of stuff. If you're rural enough, you can set up a dispensary and things like that, but that's a whole other world of administrative responsibility.
This is fascinating. I'm conscious of time because I know you got to run and so do we. And you are right. We could do a whole part two we should, on this.
Yeah,
maybe we should. Yeah,
we should.
I want to start wrapping and totally off the topic. Well, let's stay on the topic. In South Africa, we call it dacha, zol. What are the Aussie colloquialisms for it? Weed. We just call it weed.
Weed.
Yeah.
Okay. Most people call it weed.
All right. So
I had people refer to me as the weed doctor, which I think will make my dead grandmother even more distressed.
Yeah.
She'd be rolling in the grave, quite literally.
Rolling, yeah. Pun intended.
But yeah, I think what's changed is, initially I did not want to get involved in cannabis prescribing. Not that I'm anti-cannabis or anything, not at all. You know what I mean?
Why?
It was more thinking about all of the treacherous legal aspects and AHPRA and all of that kind of stuff. But when that clinical response from that first patient with just the CBD, you know what I mean? Evidence like that, which is a smack in your face as a clinician, you can't ignore that.
Well, look, and if you're doing it and you're not getting struck off the roll and things, clearly it's a legitimate.
Yeah, look, the cannabis industry in Australia is only escalating logarithmically.
Yeah.
So
do you see that happening in South Africa?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's happening all over the world. The biggest demographic of new patients that are starting to use cannabis are old people, cannabis naive, old people that are fed up of opiates and can't use NSAIDs because they've got ulcers or they've got a bad heart or bad kidneys. And now with the Americans coming out with paracetamol and whatever, there's not many options that you've got for elderly people that have got many comorbidities except morphine-based medications. You know what I mean? Oxycodone and MS-Contins and all of those. So
the future is bright. It's probably going to happen in South Africa also.
It's already happening. So there's a lot of doctors that are. So in South Africa, the prescribing pathway is through I think it's Section 21 application.
Yes.
So you make an application. I think it's
SAHPRA.
SAHPRA or the Medicines Control Council.
Is that for unregistered or one of those? It's an application process.
I think it's a Section 1 application.
21, I think you might be right, yeah.
In Australia, it's a TGA.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There's two routes. You've got something called a SAS-B application. Any doctor can prescribe cannabis. Mm-hmm. Any doctor can prescribe cannabis. You don't even need to have done too much of additional learning, that is one of the problems. You need to have that good education part as well as the medical legal aspect.
Okay.
How do you deal with minors? Somebody who's smoking cannabis already, but he's a minor. You know what I mean? Are you able to prescribe to them or not? So these are all controversial kind of stuff. What happens to a woman who's being prescribed cannabis who then becomes pregnant?
Mm. So you need some training and skill.
Yes. What do you do in people that have had a previous history of psychosis? So technically, the psychiatrists say you can't prescribe to them, but they're already using street cannabis. How do you know what I mean? So my take on that...
I might have downplayed it. You probably need a lot of training and skill.
My play in that as a medical legal litigator is there is room for harm reduction prescribing. I've taken guys that have been smoking 8 to 12 grams of cannabis, an enormous amount of... completely dysfunctional. The guy's just smoking the whole bloody day. We've taken guys like that and put them onto vaporizers, oils, and the guy's gone and found a job.
Can you overdose on weed?
No. So no, you can't.
I thought it was a myth that you can't.
No, you can't. So the thing is that the really interesting thing about cannabis, the way cannabis interacts with your body is through receptors. You've got CB1 receptors and CB2 receptors. CB1 receptors are the receptors that respond mostly to THC and are very heavily concentrated in the brain and the spinal cord. CB2 receptors, which respond mainly to CBD, the rest of your body, your bones, your skin, your GIT, your immune system, all of them, all of these organ systems are full of CBD receptors. The toxic dosage for THC in a 70-kilogram man is estimated to be 50 kilograms. So it's impossible. It's physically impossible.
Okay.
And one of the reasons for that, the way people die from drug overdoses is respiratory suppression. The area of your brain, the pons in the midbrain that controls your breathing and your sort of breathing respiration, has got a conspicuous lack of cannabinoid receptors.
Okay.
So it doesn't cause respiratory suppression. And that's, you know what I mean? That's the reason why it's so safe.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And the question, is cannabis addictive or not? So people that suffer from cannabis misuse disorder, obviously there's a component of addiction in there. But the vast majority of patients that I've actually am dealing with and have been dealing with over the last 4 years are certainly not addicted to it. You know what I mean? People can stop and start and all of that. And what we often say to patients, the tachyphylaxis. So at a certain point, people that are using cannabis may find that the response is muted. we say to them, just take a cannabis holiday, 1 to 2 days of not using anything. And basically what happens, all of those receptors get flushed out. So when they restart, they get the previous efficacy starting again.
Cannabis holiday, I like that. It's like the opposite of what I think a cannabis holiday would be. Going to one of these islands.
Amsterdam.
Speaking of holidays, I mean, let's wrap now. We need to wrap.
Okay.
You're running out of time.
Yeah.
So what do you do for fun? I mean, just work. You've got family, kids. So...
I got a few bonsais that are quite neglected.
Yeah.
I do a little bit of gardening with my wife.
Right.
I'm hoping to try and get into a
What are you growing? No, don't go there. Yeah.
No. We only grow. I tried growing vegetables, Navin.
Yeah.
I tried growing vegetables in Queensland. Yeah. I grew 2 tomatoes after spending $1,000 on water and everything else.
What's the exchange rate? Rand to exchange rate?
10 to 1.
Sure.
10. That's about where it is. About 10 to 1. It's
nice to come to South Africa.
It is.
Yeah.
Not just for the currency exchange. Just South Africa's just.
Do you have family and stuff here?
My mum is here, and then I've got my brother and my dad passed away, but I've got all of my there's cousins and aunties.
All in Laudium and
a lot in Laudium, but also in Joburg.
Our last guest, I think, was from Laudium, and maybe her father was your dentist, Dowji. Her name is Mary Dowji. Her father was dentist, Prof. Dowji.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, if I remember correctly, he stayed in the street next door to where I grew up.
Yeah, he passed away, I think, 5 years ago.
Marble Street. If it is the same person, then it
has to be. He had a practice at his house, and
his father was my school teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember she said the father.
Yes.
Then it is the same, yeah. Yes. So they lived in Marble Street. We live in Jewel Street. Marble Street is literally the street.
And you heard about that urban legend about Laudium having the highest concentration.
It's not an urban legend. BMWs and Mercedes-Benz. No. It was it's not an urban legend. It was in the Guinness Book of Records.
Really?
Yes.
No, you've got to send me a link to this or something. Find it.
I'll try and find it. But that's been known for a long time.
Okay, if you find it, send it to me, because after that conversation with Dr. Dowji, I went and, went on ChatGPT, and then they said there's no real evidence to show this, and there's places.
I'll go see if I can find something else.
And then what is it? 3 sons. They still are they practicing? What are they?
No. So two of them do sort of like middle management kind of work.
Yeah.
The youngest one was the only one I could get to go to university, but he recently graduated as a civil engineer. / architect or architectural.
You didn't want
design.
them to be a doctor / lawyer / if somebody comes to you and says, I want to be a doctor, what would you tell them? Now, at this time, if somebody just comes to you and says, I watched your episode, I really want to be a doctor and a lawyer, what would you say to them?
Go for it.
Go for it.
Go for it. Yeah.
No regrets. Yeah.
Yeah. No regrets. No regrets whatsoever. I was actually wanting to write a book. Yeah. Why every doctor should do a law degree.
Okay.
So I started it off and whatever. Maybe you can inspire me.
Why do you think that they should?
Because it gives you an enormous amount of protection against the world.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I did...
Do doctors need protecting?
My man.
Yeah.
You're joking.
No, but I'm serious.
Doctors are easy targets for everything.
No way.
Yeah. Everything from bullying within the health industry to some cop trying to extort money from you at a traffic stop.
Yeah.
To the bank trying to extort money from you through some stupid stuff that they've made mistakes on.
Right.
To the taxman.
And patients?
To everybody, even patients. I mean, the thing is that it's changed. I suppose I've been admitted now for over 20 years. But it certainly has changed the way that I practice. I still practice frontline emergency department work, you know what I mean? Yeah. As an ED physician. So you're still doing all of the stuff, but maybe some areas of my practice are a little bit more.
But does that make you too defensive? No.
Well, probably yes.
Okay.
But I can defend practicing defensive medicine if it means. Recently, there was an article that was written by a bunch of radiologists criticizing emergency doctors about the amount of CT scans they do on patients.
Yeah, too defensive. Yeah.
Keep in your lane. The thing is that one of the things that people don't, all of these people criticizing EDs and stuff, when you're working within constrained finances, staffing, you don't have a working primary health system where if you see somebody for a headache today, where they can follow up with their GP tomorrow to make sure that his eye is not pointing in that direction or whatever. If you don't have those facilities, you do what you need to do at that time, because that responsibility is going to be with the ED physician. If I'm in Australia and I got a bloke that's living 400 kilometers west and he's come into me with a headache and his blood pressure's high and all of that, you could actually say it would be negligent for me not to CT scan him if he's not going to have access to diagnosing a small subdural or a meningioma or something like that. So a lot of doctors criticize what emergency departments do in the emergency department.
Right. And this must be in Australia.
All over the world.
Yeah.
Unless the only person, so I can't come criticize a dentist. I know bugger all about that.
Yeah.
It's peer-reviewed criticism that should be allowed. So only emergency department physicians should criticize emergency department physicians. Whenever radiologists come and pass judgment like that, it creates a bad impression for the community at large.
The profession as a whole,
yeah.
Brings the profession into disrepute.
So I defend my position within those three fraternities: the emergency department field, GP work, and the medicinal cannabis fraternity.
And this is why you reckon every doctor should do a law degree, at least a law degree.
Before I did my law degree, when I was still in the UK and rushing to make it, to drop the hire car back at the airport and come back to South Africa, I got pulled off and put into the back of a paddy wagon for speeding.
Yeah.
So I think I was doing maybe 95 miles in a 70 zone. There were 50 other cars doing the same speed. But I don't know why, I had the smallest, cheapest car, so I got pulled off by the cops.
Yeah.
And then, so they were going to give me a fine and that, but I said, listen, I'm leaving the country next week. I'm going back to South Africa. So that's when they threw me in the back of the van and said, well, you're not going to be able to pay this fine. So I got taken to the Oxford police station. They didn't put me in a cell. Oh, I got put in some holding cell, but they kept the door open. And I think I was leaving on the Wednesday or so. This would have been on a Friday or something. So these guys organized an urgent court date for me to appear on the Monday in Oxford. So I needed to find a lawyer. I needed to do whatever to come and defend this, which was impossible. So I went and I battered it myself. I went and stood in front of the magistrate and I said, well, the charge was speeding and reckless driving. So I said, well, I admit to the speeding, but I vehemently oppose the reckless driving charge. And then I went a little bit further and I said, well, look, I work as a locum doctor here. I have to have transport or else I can't get to these destinations that I go to. Can any license sanction be commuted to a fine? So the magistrate smiled at me, hit me with a £300 fine, and it was over. And then I thought to myself, geez, this was going to cost me a couple of £1,000 to get a lawyer to do that. So that was probably what set the first seeds in place. And then my wife and I were going to the surgery. I think I mentioned this earlier. There was a cop that stopped us. And I'd stopped at the stop sign. The cop stopped us and said, you didn't stop. We need to give you a ticket. And that, I know I'd stopped. I stopped at the stop sign for hundreds of times before. So the guy was just trying to extort a bribe. And I refused. I said, give me the ticket. I got the ticket, and this was in the military. It's called Voortrekkerhoogte, in the military base in Pretoria.
Near 1 mil.
It was a military cop that gave me. He wanted a bribe. I was not going to give him a bribe. So I then, with my wife in tow, with the ticket, I drove to the military cops headquarters, and I went and asked for whoever was their commanding officer. I got the guy. I said, listen, your guy just gave me this. And this is bullshit. I'm going to take this to court. So he took it from me, said, don't worry about it, scratched it, and it was over and done with.
Such a lawyer. Such a lawyer.
But the other thing, when we started the surgery, the GPs were getting free contraceptives from the health department to distribute free. But when we started our surgery in 1998, the health department came up with some stupid rule that they were stopping doing that. So that was like my first endeavor into going and I wasn't a lawyer, but basically I went and fought
for rights.
Fought and said this is bullshit. You know what I mean? This is, first of all, there's no sense to it, and we got it right. They basically gave us an enormous amount of contraception that we distributed free within our clinic, which was great. You know what I mean? It was part of HIV education and all of that. I know I've veered off somewhere.
No. I mean, I'm just thinking we have to do a part 2.
So those instrumental things actually said to me, you know what, this law part and actually understanding these things is very much more useful than I thought before. And every aspect of medical practice, including as a dentist, everything, even applying for finance, your home loan, bankruptcy, debts, divorce.
It's useful to know your rights.
Succession planning, all of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Those are essential things that everybody should know. But within the medical fraternity, some of it is actually even more important that you do know.
So are you back off to Australia soon? Or?
Yes, tomorrow. I leave back tomorrow.
Yeah, we must do a part 2.
Yeah, no, sounds great, man.
No, definitely. I mean, it's been so interesting from my side. I reiterate your statement that everyone should know some form of law because, my opinion is we all just winging it. We're all just living life, but no one really knows the rules up until you need it.
Yes.
So for me, tax and law should be taught in some form of educational system. But Doc, thank you so much for your time.
This was great.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Excellent,
We'll
man.
see you down under.
Yeah, for sure. Take care, man.
Let's